Hello everyone, kia ora tātou, haere mai, and welcome along to Showy Ovaries, a podcast where I, blindly fumbling through the underdrawers of perimenopause, Penny Ashton, am trying to learn all I can about just what the hell happens to women and trans individuals when our hormonal levels start to rollercoaster like the shittiest ride at Rainbow's End. A quick reminder, I am not a doctor, though I did once have to perform surgery on my teddy bear, John George Ashton, after I ripped off his head in a pillow fight. I am still traumatized. But if you want someone who knows more than how to use satin ribbon as a bow tie to hide neck scars, please do contact an actual medical professional. And speaking of medical professionals, my guest today was at one point one of the most famous nurses that New Zealand has ever known. Even more famous than Jenny from Invercargill. It's Nurse Ellen Crozier from Shortland Street. She also dished out a special kind of Westie medicine as Cheryl West in Outrageous Fortune, is a tireless advocate for the rights of actors and for their environment, is a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to film and TV, and is a bloody top chick, so please give a warm ovarian welcome to Robyn Malcolm. Hooray.
Hooray. Do you know what? I found out years later that the writer's nickname for Ellen Crozier was the slut in the cardie.
The slut in the cardie.
The slut in the cardie.
That's not very Shortland Street family friendly, is it?
I know. I don't think that was ever said on the telly, but I kind of like that. And I was appalled when they first, and they went, no, hold on a minute. She wore a cardie, the red cardie,
she did.
All the time, and she slept with rather a lot of people.
Okay. I don't even remember that about your character.
No, I mean, I don't really either. And then I said, but why would that make her a slut?
Yes, well, of course, because it was the early 2000s.
It was the early, well, actually, it was
it was the
mid-90s.
Yeah, it was too.
Yeah. When we could still use that language.
Yeah, and when you think about, how Paris Hilton was treated in the early 2000s for having the temerity of somebody else leak a sex tape, then she was the slut. It's amazing what women had to endure.
I know. I'm still outraged by it. In fact, I'm outraged by the whole patriarchy on a daily basis. I'm like, how did that ever happen? And then I think you only oppress that which threatens you. So way back, somehow in the cavemen days, men just became threatened by women really early on.
Yeah, right. Well, and there's that whole thing about needing to protect our tender wombs because we're going to have their children. So that comes into it too.
I know, and then you quote Betty White, and that's just, I love that quote of hers. Do you remember that?
Is that the vagina one?
Yeah.
It's not actually her though.
Is it not?
No, I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you.
Oh, no, who said that?
I don't. Because I have looked into it because when she died, I was like, now, did she say that? Because it doesn't really sound like anything else I've ever heard her say. And
that's very true.
No, it wasn't her. And for those who don't know, it's like, I don't know why people say that you need balls to be strong. They should call them vaginas because those things can take a pounding.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. But that's not actually. If you some weird, there's some dog noise happening around it because this is a watershed moment, Robyn Malcolm. This is my first in-person interview.
I know, and you're in my house and at your feet are two large sleeping animals. We went out for a long walk this morning because I thought I need to tire them, otherwise they'll leap all over this material. So fingers crossed that they'll stay quiet for the next 45 minutes. But if they become problematic, I'll put them in a cupboard with some raw meat, which is how I used to parent, and it always works.
Right, okay. Well, one of them's here now, so they haven't run off screaming, so that's good.
No, they're all right.
They're good. Great.
Yes.
Marvellous. Okay, now I've got a longer introduction for you, but before we do that, I'm going to go like this, because on Tuesday something's happening. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ellen Crozier. Robyn Malcolm, happy birthday to you. Hooray. So you got anything special planned for your birthday?
Well, I'm turning 57. I spent most of the year thinking I was turning 58, so it's always quite it's quite good to be wrong in that direction.
It's amazing how you start rounding up after a while. It's like, why do you do that?
I know. I do remember a friend of mine when I turned 50 and I was having a moment about that, and she said, you wait till you're 55 and you start heading towards 60. That's a moment.
That's what people have kept saying to me, actually, because I'm close to 50, and 50 is, I don't know, it's like I hope that I can go somewhere fabulous like Hawaii or something, but even if I can't, whatever. But yeah, then 60, it's a whole different thing.
It really, I mean, what I find kind of wonderful, despite what we're about to talk about, is that it seems to me that all the indicators and all the kind of labels we have for different age groups, different decades, it seems to be all up in the air right now.
Right. You're noticing a change?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. It's like I was listening to And the 60s and 70s have had a lot to do with it, I reckon. You know, like I was listening to Mark Maron's interview with Patti Smith yesterday.
Okay.
And she's in her 70s. And she's not what I remember a 70-year-old to be, you know, like, and none of us are now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm what a 57-year-old was meant to be. I think none of us are. I feel like it's all up for grabs again, which I kind of love.
I do think, because Ella Henry did something similar to me, but then I wonder is that when we were younger looking at people, we were like, oh, they're old. But now we're that age, we realise that we're not that old, and maybe they weren't that old, the ones that we were looking at thinking they were old.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very, but also,
I do think there's some,
there were some expectations, you know, and particularly around women, you know, like you did have to go gently into that good night.
Totally.
When you were in your 50s.
Yeah. Yes. And I think there's a lot of for me, a lot of Gen X with learning about menopause, just going, how the fuck has no one talked about this? Like, I'm genuinely incensed that this is stuff I'm only just finding out about now.
Yeah.
And I think people, we've had such access to information potentially with the internet for quite a long time. Obviously not since we were teenagers and stuff as people our age. But I feel like, you know, the information is also really available. Why the fuck isn't it out there more? And we're going to get it out there more.
Shame.
Yeah, true. Yeah, absolutely. Around women's bodies.
It's shame. And it doesn't help when you got people like Jermaine Greer calling it the antechamber to death.
Yes. And all those
I'm
memes
like,
and
WTF,
jokes.
Jermaine, what the hell?
Yeah. Didn't she wrote a book about menopause, did she not?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. The
Maybe
minute
I'll
I
cut
heard that quote, I went, I'm swerving way away from you.
Jermaine Greer's done some interesting things.
I know, recently,
She has.
I know.
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah. Anyway, okay, so here's your longer introduction. Brace yourself. National treasure Robyn Malcolm was born in 1965 in New Zealand's most glamorous town, Ash Vegas, aka Ashburton. After attending Ashburton College, she got a degree in English and music from Canterbury, as we called it, and was then off to Toi Whakaari, or as it was known then, New Zealand Drama School, which she graduated from in 1987. Since then, she has performed in over 60 film, television and theatre productions. In 1999, she founded the New Zealand Actors Company, who hired me to do publicity for the Roger Hall play A Way of Life. Theatre, though, of a large scale, as these shows were, can be a bitch, and the company blazed bright but brief, though still with some amazingly epic successes along the way. In 2005, she was cast as one of New Zealand's iconic TV roles, Cheryl West, the matriarch of a crime family trying to go straight, for which she won Best Actor awards in, brace yourselves, 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and also New Zealand's Sexiest Woman in 2007. She is so very sexy, in fact, she's now flashing her undies about all over with her fundraising range, Robyn's Undies. She's also a campaigner for actors' rights, was a bloody legend in the whole actors' equity, Peter Jackson bullshit, and also for the environment with the Green Party. But I've talked for far too long, so please welcome again, Robyn Malcolm. Hooray.
Listen to everything I've done. I must have been asleep during all of that.
It's amazing how when I do these introductions, women often go, oh God, oh, that's so much. But, you know, you did all that.
Well, I'm just bathing in it.
Yes, as you should.
It's quite good, isn't it? Because you do get, I go through phases, as we all do in this industry. Like, we don't become venerable and we don't get admitted to the bar and we don't become QCs and we don't become the head of blah, blah, blah. And you do feel like, oh God, I really wish I could just achieve something, or I really wish I could become, you know, like.
Oh my God, but you have done so much. You're a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit,
but you
darling.
forget that, don't you? Because you know, as we always say, you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah.
And you know, and particularly through this pandemic, you're like, oh, fuck, what was my last job? What did I last do?
Yeah, totally. That's why I invented this podcast. So I had something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is amazing how the public can be so fickle. Like,
oh God, yeah.
You know, that if you are like Melody Rules, for example, if you are in Melody Rules, then you will be forever remembered. For those who are too young, it was a sitcom. It didn't go well.
No.
And Susan Brady, you know, and Belinda Todd were tarred with that brush for a really long time, whereas nobody else was. The people that were on the screen were the ones who like took the brunt of it, and that's what happens when you're the lead of something.
Yeah.
Which you had some experience of with Leah in the New Zealand Actors Company, which was a show that did not go as well as it might have done.
But you know, those moments, I mean, I often cite that as one of those great moments of failure where you learn a hell of a lot.
So true.
It's great. It's great because you kind of really do work out what you're made of, and then you've got to go back and justify your decisions and think about them, or not justify them, but think about them and pull them apart and kick them around and go, what would I do that again, or would I do that differently? And if I was going to do it differently, why? And you know, and that's what I'm. You know, one of the wonderful things about getting older is working out what do you genuinely regret.
And how good are you? I am terrible, you can ask my husband, at letting things go. How are you at letting things go?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
I'm pretty good now.
Right.
I wasn't, but I've been working on that.
Yeah.
A lot. A lot.
You're pulling a face.
Yes. I mean,
right.
Let go, breathe, let go.
And I think those failures are important because you do learn so much, not least of which about what's commercially viable.
That's exactly right. And is it always important to do stuff that's commercially viable? Does that really matter to you? Economically, usually, yes.
Yeah, on a large scale, perhaps.
Yeah.
That's the thing about, I mean, I loved that show, Leah, but it was huge. It was at Sky City. It had a huge cast. And so that was the issue with that. But yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling if we did it again now, it would have a very different response. Yeah. And there was a thing about it too, having a middle-aged woman as Leah, obviously going through middle-aged woman health stuff.
That's so true. I never even thought about that. Like menopausal Leah.
Menopausal Leah was a bit icky for some people.
Yeah, it really was. And also because she exposed her breast, and that affronted so many people that Geraldine Brophy dare do that.
Yeah. I love that she did that.
I love that you've linked it back to the theme of my podcast. You're a professional.
Yeah,
you are such a professional.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you my first question that I ask everybody, which is, what has your relationship with your body been like, and what journey has it been on?
Okay. So my relationship with my body has been fraught, and it was fraught from about the age of 11.
Right.
And then...
Was that puberty?
Yes, when I hit puberty, there was quite a lot of self-hatred in there, and then that turned into a very obsessive bulimic relationship with food that lasted about 11 years.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, I mean, I look back at that time and it was, I mean, if I'd had the language, it would have been good, you know, but.
And was there internal family pressure? Was it just what you saw in the media?
No, I actually don't know. I'm not sure what it was. I mean, I think my dad was very sporty, he's 82 now. I think there probably was something around being sporty and physical and sort of thin that I was probably aspiring to, but it was deeper than that. Like, I used to draw all the time. I was my nana was an artist, and I used to draw with her, and I loved drawing. But I went through this phase where I used to draw, and I've still got them. They're freaky. I used to draw pictures of women over and over and over and over again, and they were all frighteningly thin. Like, I had this kind of obsession.
And you thought that was beautiful.
And I thought that's, you know, like, but I look back and they were just like, they were deformed. The pictures I was drawing were deformed. But then I would binge eat.
And did anyone know this was happening?
Yeah, Mum did. And Mum was, you know, she did what she could. I mean, she used to work for Weight Watchers, and so she tried to help me with Weight Watchers. And I mean, I've discovered that the whole eating disorder thing, there's a certain genetic component to it, which I didn't know, but recent studies have said that. So I struggled with that, and then around the time of drama school, I read a book called The Dieter's Dilemma, and it was a book written by a couple of GPs, and it said that diets don't work, and what you can do is exercise. And so I took up smoking and I took up exercise.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
And that worked for years. It was good.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Good. So when did you quit smoking?
Oh, I quit smoking years ago. I quit smoking in No. It was when I turned 35, so
Right.
20 years ago.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So, but you just, that one book managed to change your eating That's
Yeah.
crazy. That is great.
I also got to a point where I remember what it was. I was at drama school, and this lovely other student actor who I don't think he acts anymore, but he was a bit of a bodybuilder and stuff. And I remember I lost a lot of weight very quickly. I went on one of those stupid liquid-only diets, and I became...
Which is what Shane Warne just did. Just before his heart attack, he went on a liquid-only diet. Yeah.
Well, I lost a lot of weight, and suddenly he hit on me.
Right.
And he started telling me how gorgeous I looked, and something in me just snapped. I was like, how dare you? How dare you suddenly see me as a completely different person? So there was that, and then there was also this feeling that I didn't like taking up less space.
Oh.
I didn't like being smaller. Like I liked the size I was in the world. I liked my sort of silhouette in the world. And so I had this kind of weird thing between all this outrage which was in my head, but also something that needed quite a lot of therapy, which was intense physical self-hatred. So I then had to work on that.
So you got therapy? Because your mother is a counsellor, isn't
she? Yeah.
So she would have referred you to someone else? Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, and I started really looking at that. And there's a point with all of that where you have to go, oh, well, it is what it is. Move on, learn something, get something else in your toolbox that's going to help. But I also think, particularly with puberty, I always had a fairly hormonal ride.
So you had PMT quite...
Oh, really intensely.
Right.
Like, and pain and, and so I could always tell there were moments in the month when I felt really good. And then I could tell the week before I would just crash.
Wow, right.
And, and I've sort of pieced a lot of that together since then because when I was pregnant, I don't think I was happier. Like hormonally, I was in this perfect place when I was pregnant.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I think I've always had a bit of a...
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So, because I have never had PMT, I've been very lucky that way. So, is it things that set you off? Are you just enraged all the time? Like, how does it actually manifest?
I think it's different for different people, but I think my mum used to say it was like I woke up in the morning and got out the black paintbrush. So I would just, suddenly the world was a different place and I would respond, everything had a sort of a negative. Again, I look back at that. Sorry, that was a bit shouty, that again. I read this wonderful article in the Washington Post a few years ago entitled, Why Do We Medicate Women's Feelings?
Yeah.
And I think there's another part to this, is that I would become hugely emotional. I would get angry. I would get upset, all this stuff, and then, of course, feel ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been quite an ongoing journey for women across the board, is that, we're not meant to be those things.
Yeah.
And particularly my generation, I think I was probably one of the last generations where the idea of being a well-behaved head prefect who doesn't get rattled by stuff was just not acceptable. So you're constantly trying to, I think becoming an actor really saved my bacon in so many ways because I had an outlet for a lot of that, and
a lot
suddenly,
of rage.
and suddenly I was surrounded by a lot of emotional crazies.
Yes, yeah, totally.
And it was normalized, you know. Suddenly you could cry and you could rage and you could laugh uproariously. I mean, that's just bringing it back to Jerry Brophy. One of the things I adored about Jerry, working with Jerry, was how much she laughed.
Yeah.
Whereas freaked out by people who laugh too much as we are by people who cry, just that excess. And so being around that was hugely
therapeutic.
Yeah, really therapeutic.
So you didn't get a lot of that in Ashburton?
No.
So Ashburton is not like a raging hotbed of...
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I do remember...
No offence to... I've got very good friends in Ashburton.
Yeah, same. But, and also that generation of parents, I remember I used to just get angry and outraged all the time by all sorts of different things. And my father would say, anger is a destructive emotion. Find a more constructive way to express yourself, please.
Yeah, and that, you know what, sometimes you just deserve to be enraged. And when you get angry, you can make change. Yes, sometimes it's better to talk in rational tones, but sometimes you just have to say, this is bullshit.
Yeah, sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Yeah. Sometimes that... It's a great motivator.
And what about your relationship with your body now at this age?
Oh, well, I mean, I guess I've been really lucky. I think the journey of particularly outrageous fortune was so amazing to me because back in the day when I was a theatre actress, I considered myself to be kind of a dumpy, serious geek.
Right.
That's who happened to be a good stage actress. So mad on Shakespeare, and my whole career was going to be on stage. I never considered for a minute that I had the face or body for screen. It never occurred to me. And so as I started to get TV work and got a positive response, that was really quite shocking to me.
Wow.
And then the journey through Outrageous Fortune, where she became this kind of really sexy character.
Totally.
Again.
New Zealand's Sexiest Woman, 2007.
It was so shocking.
So that must have blown your mind.
It did blow my tiny mind.
Yeah.
And it really made me think, I'm not as bad as I thought I was. It's all right. It's all right. So I think that, again, they're how fortunate, and I would do things like, I remember I did life modelling for a while, and because it was really wonderful listening to artists talk about your shape and your body in a non-judgmental way, and that was kind of great. And now I'm really, really cool with it, because of the industry, I figure I probably can't let myself become a blimp. A postmenopausal blimp.
Right.
Because of when Nicole Kidman puts herself on Vanity Fair like she did last week, I'm like, oh, dude, really?
It was just that she was dressed like a schoolgirl.
Why are you setting us back like this?
Yeah.
I get there might be some kind of weird irony here, but why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
You're a really fine actress. Just, But aside from that, I'm just trying to keep a bit of a balance with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love my food and I love my drink. And the idea that one's going to die with that kind of problem and that kind of relationship with your body just fills me with, I'm more fearful of that than anything. So I feel like I'm in the best place I was,
right.
Which is really interesting because this is now when everything gets a bit saggy and when everything starts to sort of like gravity starts working fairly intensely and you're not what you were.
Yeah, but you're still working heaps, right?
Yeah.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I feel, like I had this hilarious moment on the street about a year ago, and I'd been for dinner with some friends and we were out on the street chatting, and there was this group of young people who were there and they started chatting too, and there was this young fella who was there and he was part of the whole group, and I just accidentally was chatting to him, and then suddenly I realised halfway through the conversation that this poor young soul thought I was trying to pick him up, and I absolutely wasn't. I absolutely wasn't. But the horror on his face.
Yeah, right.
And I went, oh, this is how I look to you guys now. I'm like this really old lady. I don't see myself as that.
No. And I remember once I was doing a gig and I had quite a lot of cleavage on display, and somebody tweeted about it. It's quite a well-known musician, actually, as if it was a horrible thing. And that was the same sort of thing. I'm just going, oh, fuck you, you little asshole. So, yeah, it is confronting to think that you are horrifying as a sexual being.
Horrifying. And I kind of, what's lovely, we were talking about how anger is a great motivator, and I'm like, okay, horrifying.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I did this years ago. I had to sign a nudity clause for a job I was doing, and I was in my late 40s then, and jokingly by the nudity clause I wrote, listen, if you want to put a 48-year-old woman naked on screen, I fully celebrate you and I will be there 150%. Let's go. And when I finally arrived on set, they had some very tasteful lingerie for me to wear.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because it was just, my enthusiasm was just a little bit too much to cope with. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, we've been going for half an hour.
See, I'm like a fucking pork chop.
What does that mean?
It means I just go on and on and on. That's what I think pork chops is.
Oh, okay. I just thought I was going to call my period Mike Hosking because it was going on and on and on. Anyway, so did you know anything about menopause before it happened to you?
No.
Short and sweet. Nothing at all. Did your mother talk to you about hers?
No. In fact, I think, and she may very well oppose me on this, but I think she pretended it was fine. And then now, as me and my 3 other sisters are going for it, she's now telling us how not fine it was.
Wow. Yeah. It's so odd, isn't it? Just that deeply entrenched shame, even with your own children. Right.
When I first went to see my doctor, and it was when I was having serious emotional breakdowns, one after another, and she said, no, this is menopause. And I went, what? And she went, yeah, they save the worst for last. She went, puberty's nothing compared to this. And I went, really? And then she quite blithely went, yeah, my grandma shot herself in the head. And you go,
what the fuck?
Wow. And then I look back, like my grandma, Peggy, who I only knew as this very gently spoken, sort of naughty behind the eyes, lovely, soft Edinburgh accent. She was put on barbiturates in her mid-40s for mental instability and depression, and she stayed on them her entire life. And now Mum will say she was menopausal, you know.
Absolutely.
But she was medicated because nobody knew how to diagnose it. And I think that's part of the problem still, is that, you know, I've done a really deep dive into it, and I think it's still being misdiagnosed because people are still surprised at the number of changes that happen. I mean, I try to avoid the word symptoms because I feel like that suddenly makes it a medical condition as opposed to a natural part of life. There are so many changes that happen. Like, people know about hot flushes, but they don't know about the memory loss. They don't know about the body aches and the joint aches. They don't know about the lack of sleep. They don't know about the mental instability, the anxiety, the physical anxiety, all that stuff.
Did you, which ones did you have?
All of them.
You had all of that? Far out. And for how long before you sought help?
I think I was perimenopausal for quite a while. And so I started taking bioidentical hormones, which in the end were not enough. You know, like they weren't working.
So this is the patches, the HRT patches?
I couldn't do HRT. I'm on it now because I did a whole bunch of tests to make sure I was okay.
Do you have a history of cancer?
No, history of, the problem was the progesterone, I think, because I'd had a history of stroke in the family. And because of all the bad publicity that HRT got back in the day.
And the erroneous study conclusions.
That's right. That's right. I was fearful of that. So I didn't go near that at the time.
Sorry, and how old were you when this all started?
49, round about then.
Right.
And then when I hit about 50, I remember once I went through a period, like I've always come and gone with shrinks. I think that's an actress thing. I just like talking about myself.
See, I've never done that.
I love them. And I do remember this wonderful therapist I had in the middle of my 40s when things were really, I was incredibly busy and I was involved in a whole bunch of political stuff. Plus I was doing Outrageous. Plus I was a solo mum of 2 kids. And I was just doing that battler, cope. And I remember her saying to me back in the day, if you don't slow down, when you hit menopause, you're going to have an endocrinal meltdown. And I remember thinking that all sounds a bit dramatic.
Yeah, like what in menopause, what, my period's just going to stop? What of it?
Whatever.
Yeah.
And then I did.
You did, right.
I absolutely collapsed. And
did you have to take time off?
No, the good thing about being an actor is that you get quite a lot of time off anyway. Yeah. But I developed, I guess you would call it, I developed a clinical depression. Like I became an absolute cock case. And so I battled that for about a year. Couldn't stop crying.
Oh, honey.
Just couldn't. You know, and I mean, I look back now and some of it I find really funny now. The moments when you know, you go to those moments of pain and they tend to be hilarious with a bit of perspective. But so eventually I went on antidepressants and that was like a switch.
Oh, wow.
Just a switch. It just gave me some space in a day. Like I used to wake up in the morning and not want to be awake. It was just like I couldn't. But because it was so intense, I was able to go and talk to doctors and they could say to me, this is what we were talking about. You're going through the early stages of menopause and you're also fucked. Like your hormones are all over the show. You've been existing on adrenaline and cortisol for years and years and years. So you're in the middle of a perfect storm. And before we do anything else, we need to chemically sort you out. And I'd been so resistant to all that stuff for such a long time. Like, what do I need? I don't need those. I'm a strong person. I can get through anything. I can get pushed in the gutter by a hobbit protester and I can stand up and I can get all that shit on social media. I'm fine. So it took me a minute to go, okay, get some humility and
get some help.
And I did. And
so that was after a year?
Maybe even 2 of fighting,
right,
panic attacks and all sorts of stuff.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, it was hell. It was awful. And then I just, that gave me the space to kind of deal with things. And so that just, it was like, I can't describe it. It was kind of wonderful. It was like all that stuff was still going on, but it was like in another room. So I could go, okay, how are you going to deal with this? How are you going to deal with this now? How are you going to deal with that? So that was quite wonderful. And then over that period of time, I then started looking back into HRT. Mm-hmm. And I was able to do a whole bunch of tests and they could tell me that my body was completely fine and I was super healthy and that
checking your vascular system,
all that stuff,
yeah.
You know, which is a lovely thing to do in your early 50s, to have someone go, you're good to go, right. You're fine, everything's in good shape.
You slapped a patch on.
I slapped a patch on.
And?
So good.
Okay.
So good. And that was when I heard that menopausal symptoms can go on for women for decades.
Yep.
And women can pick up HRT when they're 65 if they want, and that there are so many benefits to it now.
Mm-hmm. Did it make you angry about what had gone before as well? I suppose it's difficult, isn't it? It makes me angry about the HRT being misreported, but people thought they were doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy I found it.
Yeah, I shouldn't try to make you feel angry anymore.
No, don't try and make me feel angry anymore. I mean, so long. No, we can access that if you want. Yeah. So now it's fine. I mean, the stuff that still hangs around is I get a bit of joint acheage sometimes, and I get hot flashes sometimes. And the big one that I did notice HRT help with immediately was memory, because my short-term memory had just gone and I was really nervous that was early onset dementia or whatever. And again, my wonderful doctor said, no, this is menopause.
Yeah.
Because people would be, dear friends would walk towards me in the street and I would just blank on their names.
Yeah, and I forgot your name on the podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally.
It's
I know
like,
who you are.
You know, and it was like it had all just, I used to liken it to, it's like you're walking along a tightrope, you know, or a swing bridge across a big ravine, and that's your sentence and your idea, you know, where you want to get to at the end of the sentence is at the other end, and then I just fall off.
Right.
You know, what was I going to say? What was I going to say?
So then that worked for that. Fantastic. And so what sort of progesterone do you take?
I'm on one that's just been trialed, because I can't take the real progesterone because some reason.
Of a reason.
And but
your short-term memory recall is great.
Yeah, my short-term memory is really great, except some medical issues that it's all relative, you know?
Yes.
So I'm on a trial, which is the lowest dose of progesterone, and it's attached to an IUD and you wear it. And because I'm on this thing that's been trialled for a number of years and it's meant to be, you know, it's perfectly safe, but I go in and get checked out every 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Just to make sure that everything's okay, because you take the progesterone to stop uterine cancer.
Yeah.
And I think because I could never go on the pill when I was able to make babies, because I would have such a strong reaction to the hormones in the pill.
So your hormones have been brutal to you.
They've been pretty brutal. Yeah. You know, they've been pretty, you know, but probably also great. I mean, like I said, I was just in heaven when I was pregnant.
Wow.
Just loved it.
Did you have twins?
No,
you had two different.
20 months apart. But I was just on a high the whole time. And apparently that was to do with the hormones going on.
Okay. So this has been quite a cocktail of figuring it out and sorting it. That's the thing I find with menopause. It's so much trial and error.
And the problem is that because it's not out there, because it's not talked about, because even now women my age are really ashamed of talking about it, it's like it's still one of those things of, well, if you're not a bleater like me, I was told once that I was a compulsive sharer. Something like that.
Overshare. I'm a bit like, I've been talking about my vulva much more than I ever thought that I would.
Well, why not?
Yeah. It's so funny too. Like, I find it hard to say, me who's so open. So, yeah, but you've never had a problem talking about stuff?
No, shit, no.
Excellent.
No. And
Let's make this podcast real shit of you.
Yeah, that's right. How was your menopause? Fine.
Yeah. Which, must have been so many people forever. But sorry, I interrupted.
But also, I just think because the information that's coming out for women is piecemeal. You got to go hunting for it. It's not part of our natural conversation. It's not something that like if you were, think of a comparison, you got a broken leg, say, and you go, I'm going to need help getting up into that bus because my leg's a bit funny, or you go, can I sit in this chair? Not that I'm equating menopause with a broken leg, but there are so many physical things that happen when you're menopausal that we then try and pretend they're not happening, or we try and disguise them, or we try and cover them, and it's because of shame. Mm-hmm. It's like I spend a lot of time in the Northern Hemisphere. And when I first started getting hot flushes, you'd go to a lovely English pub or whatever, and I would say to everyone I was with, I'd go, I'm having a hot flush. We all have to go outside and stand in the snow.
Right. I love it.
And they'd all come with me.
Yeah. And had they had people talk so openly to them before?
No.
Do you know? Wow, right.
No. And the older men would be like, and I'm like, this is it. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
This is how... And I do feel if we can find a way for women to take this by the horns, I mean, we've got to lead. Mm. We've got to not be ashamed of it. And there's a lot of things that are problematic around it. It's like there's a grief around your sudden loss of fertility.
Yeah, so that's not for everyone.
And that's not for everyone.
Yeah, like for me, I was like, woohoo! But I don't think it hasn't happened yet. I'll be fucking thrilled because I've never wanted children. So.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. But also alongside that, what that represents, it's like that wonderful skit, the Amy Schumer.
Last fuckable day.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Why are you only fuckable until the moment where you can't have children anymore?
Yeah.
How come?
Yeah.
What's that message about? So you're losing your fertility, which also means that you're losing your sexiness, which means how come Clint Eastwood can be sexy at 112?
Yeah.
Although he's not anymore because he's a horrible Republican.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're having to let go of a whole bunch of stuff, or you're being told you have to let go of a whole bunch of stuff. So pulling all that apart as well was...
Yeah, linking your usefulness to your fecundity, I find particularly galling as someone who's never wanted children or just in general.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right.
I do like the word fecundity. I like to drop it in as much
fecundity.
As possible. I know it's really, I'm sorry, what? Oh, fecundity.
Fecundity.
So did menopause affect your working? Like, did you have trouble remembering lines or anything like that?
No, weirdly, no. Never.
Wow, that is interesting.
Never. That's what was kind of amazing about working, was that because that's a muscle that I know that I've just exercised my whole life, and because being on set or being in a theatre rehearsal is my happy place, and it's the place that I know, and it's also a place that is absent of shame.
Right.
Because it's all about humanity and, and human beings and failings and flaws and faults and all that. I felt like those were the great moments. Those were the moments when I could actually just not worry. And so it didn't affect my work in the slightest.
That's marvellous.
Yeah.
So acting was your safe and happy place.
It always has been.
Great. Okay, great. Now, have you talked to your boys about it?
Yeah, all the time. They roll their eyes constantly to the point where if I'm in a really shit mood, they go, are you menopausal? And I'm like, no, I'm just angry with you.
You still have to behave in a way. Right. There's nothing is to be excused. That's great. That's great. I mean, I'm not surprised that you did. Yeah. So they're going to be aware of it at all times. That's the thing. It should be taught at school, really. So in lieu of that, it's marvellous that you are teaching them about it.
Yeah.
And are your sisters similarly wrecked? Exactly the same.
Yep. We've all talked about it. They've all gone. The baby one, the younger one, who's just starting the perimenopausal journey, she's already asking questions. And what's great is that Mum now talks about it.
Great.
So we can then say to her, now the conversation's very open.
I mean, your mother as well, like, oh my God, she nearly died.
Yeah.
Like, has that changed her openness? Because if you don't know, she was quite badly injured in the Christchurch quakes.
She's always been super open.
Yeah.
You know, but also I think as the decades have gone on and we've demanded more and more of that from her, she's kind of relaxed into it, I think.
Mm. And how is she since the quakes? 10 years on.
Amazing.
Fabulous.
Amazing.
She's still in Christchurch?
Yeah, she's still in Christchurch. Very funny. I mean, her body's...
Because how old is she now, sorry?
82.
Right.
82.
Right.
And she's amazing. I always remember her saying after the earthquake, the earth was doing what the earth did and we got in the way.
Mm.
There's no, I can't get angry at that.
I think that's amazing.
She is now. I mean, I think she's worked out too that the way to move on in life is to
let it go.
To let it go. Right. To let it go. And she does. And she has always been incredibly fulfilled by the people in her life. And yeah, she's amazing. She's amazing.
Fabulous. Right. Okay. So now, and do you talk about a lot menopause with your friends? I'm imagining so, and all that. Right. Absolutely.
Yep. All the time. All the time.
And do you find that you're educating them? Because you've done so much work?
Well, we're educating each other because they're all on it as well. They're all brilliant. And there's a couple of us who are much older, who are a bit older, who've been through a lot more. You know, I've got one friend who's completely brilliant, who's a super duper professional, and she just cries in the workplace all the time.
Right. That's so good that she feels comfortable to do that because so many people do not.
Yeah.
Particularly in a corporate space.
Yeah. She's just like, fuck it, this is who I am.
Yep.
You know.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, did you manage to think of an out-of-the-box fun fact about menopause for us?
Not about menopause per se, but
worries.
more about just the history of, well, what I did find out, which I thought was hilarious, was the word crone. The etymology of the word crone comes from another word in Latin, which means roadkill.
This made your dog wag his tail.
Yeah. Roadkill.
Oh my God. Right.
I think it meant carrion. So
Carrion.
I've then gone to roadkill because I just think that's so brilliant.
Wow. So, yeah.
So if ever I ever write a book, it's going to be called Roadkill.
Roadkill. Here we all are crones together. Right. And was it?
Which is ironic and weird. I've just thought of this. The day I turned 50, I killed Bambi.
You killed Bambi?
I hit a baby deer on the road.
This dog.
Scooby, come here. I know you love Penny. I know because Penny's new, but you have to sit down here. And you're a young boy and we're talking about grown-up girl things.
Yes, that's right.
So calm your fun.
Right, okay. You killed a deer on the road.
I did.
And why did you decide to call it Bambi? to make yourself feel really good?
Sex Pistols. It was just the old who killed Bambi. No, I was driving along and a baby deer. I was in the UK and a baby deer just leapt out of nowhere in front of the car and I killed it. And it was on my 50th birthday. And I remember thinking, this is a sign. What is it a sign of? I don't know, but it's really
because your cronification.
My cronification.
Yeah, you get your crone
the
crown.
killing of the sacred deer.
Right, okay. So was there anything else that you wanted to talk to around menopause or anything at all?
No, just that I think the big thing for women, because of the hornet's nest of menopause and because of everything that it represents, there is so much for women to suffer shame about. And I think I would just encourage all women who are going through whatever they're going through to get over the shame and talk the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way it's good, you know, in terms of menopause in the workplace. The fact that women hide it because they think that it's going to be problematic for them in the workplace. The only way around that is to talk about it. Mm-hmm. The only way around it is to acknowledge it and to go, look, this is what it is and it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm still a perfectly good employee. This is just what's happening. So deal with it.
Yeah.
100%. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for being my first in person.
It's been so nice to talk to you and see you across the table.
Yes, indeed.
I still love seeing people again. We got into that sort of solitude.
I've been stuck at home. Because I've got weddings, I didn't want to be amongst other people. And so, I have not done anything. So it's nice to see a human being. Yeah. And some dogs. Your dogs are cute.
Yeah, they are cute. They can be very annoying, but they're very cute. They're very cute. Do you know what? I have to say it's my only major life regret is not getting into dogs earlier.
Oh, well? Right. Okay, good. Well, enjoy your dogs.
Thank you.
And I'll see you another time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
And that was, of course, the fabulously open Robyn Malcolm, who has been through a lot. Oh, my God. I have to say, if I can help in some small way to educate not just myself, but others about what might be coming for us, so as to avoid being blindsided like the generations before when it comes to menopause, then I will be one happy person who hates camping. I hate camping. It's so shit. So on that note, please share this podcast to help spread that word. Like me on all the socials. I've had some dick comments of late, so I prefer your nice ones. And hey, sign up to my Patreon to get early access to all these episodes. What more could you want? Coming up next week, we have Nikki Bezant, the author of This Changes Everything, The Honest Guide to Menopause and Perimenopause, who I have also been messaging about my fractious fanny. And a quick bits flash for Vulva News Network to say, it's so much better. Oh my God. I chat about it with Nikki, but through various other Facebook groups and things, I have found that emollient cream, which is basically smearing a candle on yourself, it's so thick and is actually paraffin, but has helped a lot. So thank the goddess for that. But I've been Penny Ashton. See you next week on Showy Ovaries. And as Pinky Agnew always says, stay juicy, everybody.